Ladies and gentlemen, Power is over. But that does not mean for one instant of a second that the fun is over. Without a doubt, you are here because the power is out. So stick around, because it's Powerrrout. Yeah, it's Powerrrout.
All right, I believe I have resolved the issue. My apologies. Thank you so much for being patient with me for that brief lapse in technical difficulties. You know who I'm going to blame for that? I'm going to blame my co-host, who seems to have a penchant for ruining all of my broadcasts. You know him very well. He has disrupted Powerrrout. He has disrupted Quizplex. He has disrupted the Smark and Friends show. All about this cat who is just ruining pretty much every broadcast I can, I can do. Anyhow. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed tonight's Power as much as I did. Once again, this is okay. I have to just get rid of my cat now because this is getting absurd. I'm going to try to fly through this review as quickly as possible because it was a great show tonight, and there is lots to talk about. But from what I understand, NXT also leaves quite a bit to talk about, and I want to be respectful of Astrid, of Ed, and Cody because man. Big night for NXT, but big night for NWA. So let's get through that as well. Yeah, you know it, Astrid. It's always going to be that cat coming in. Definitely not the most perfect of co-hosts. You said it, Parrish. Ticket equals ratings. Well, I'm looking at the viewer count, and it's certainly going up. So I guess there's something to it. Tim Wood, thank you very much for the thumbs up. Oh, you're referring to the technical difficulties. Yes, thank you very much, everyone joining. So kicking things off, I just want to say thank you to our sponsors at RK Athletics for all of your online or personal fitness needs in the Alberta, in Edmonton. Please visit them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at RK Athletics 1. Let them know your goals, and they're going to help you get there. So just reach out. We kick off the show of NWA Power with Joe, Tim, and Velvet Sky. They run through the card and how the main event is going to be Crimson against Jax Dane and how he wants to humiliate his former partner, does Crimson. They're careful of their language here, and I realize why later. They never actually say match. They just say that Crimson wants to humiliate Jax Dane, and we will get to why after. So kicking off the show formally is the NWA, the real heavyweight champion, Trevor Murdoch, along with Kyle Davis. Murdoch calls out Nick Aldis. He says that they went to, once he comes out, Trevor Murdoch says they went to war and did just about everything they could throw at each other to keep one another off of their game. He refers to Harley Race and how what he taught him, Trevor Murdoch himself, about being a champion, and how Aldis, during his reign as NWA champ, ticked all those boxes. Aldis, he takes a turn at the mic. He talks about scrapping by so he, as a young man, so he could train under Harley Race, and how at one of Harley's camps, one of the WWE Tag Team Champions would come to Harley's camp and offer his own advice. The champ in question, of course, being Mr. Trevor Murdoch. Nick says at Harley's funeral, he invited Trevor to Atlanta because the NWA is different and celebrates real wrestlers like Trevor Murdoch and respects the sport of professional wrestling, saying that Trevor Murdoch would be a great fit for the NWA. Nick says he's glad that he had to lose to, if he had to lose to anyone, he's glad that it was Murdoch, and he's happy that Murdoch has the opportunity to carry the belt. All this is about to step away before Murdoch extends the hand. They shake hands, and Nick, he leaves to some thank you Aldis chants, which is a bit of a pleasant surprise. I was concerned at the top of this segment, to be honest, because I was worried this was going to be more of Trevor Murdoch putting Nick Aldis over, which frankly is already how Trevor Murdoch has spent a significant percentage of his reign as NWA champion. But the segment delivered. I can't make it. I have no complaints about the segment as it was executed. This was a celebration, but it was also grief, and it was relief, and it was the tension of this very long program finally coming to an end. And it felt very final. It was a nice resolution to how things have been going in the Trevor Murdoch, Nick Aldis saga. And what I really liked is they took their time. I'm not always the biggest fan of long promos, especially when Mr. Nick Aldis is involved. I'm a big fan, but there's just been a lot of that in NWA TV. This took its time. The moment was given it all the time it needed to breathe, and I'm so grateful that it did, because it was very compelling. And as a viewer, it really took me on a journey. So Trevor Murdoch, Nick Aldis, he delivered a hell of a match at NWA 73, and this was like a nice dessert on top of a great meal. I think both men should be proud of this segment, and I don't say that about segments very often. Good stuff by both men. So coming up next, we get to the first match of the evening. It's part of the tag team tournament that will determine the number one contenders for La Rebellion, the current NWA champs. We have the Rude Dudes, that's Jamie Stanley and El Rudo, taking on Kratos and Aaron Stevens. This is a showdown between professionals and showboats early in the match. Kratos is pretty much putting a stop to all the early nonsense and pretty much runs through the rude Dudes for the remainder of the match. He's doing all the heavy lifting. He's not tagging Stevens in. And yeah, he just finishes off Jamie Stanley with that deadlift standing suplex, which is just a very impressive move to see. Even when he's not on screen, the cat is disruptive. So we'll get to the post-match itself, because that's like another compelling piece of television. But the match itself, I haven't seen Kratos use the pounce before, and I popped big because, again, Monty Brown. I'm never not going to think of Monty Brown when I see a pounce, and I really liked how Kratos brought it up. And yeah, like I said, that deadlift suplex that Kratos does, it's always very impressive, but Jamie Stanley's a pretty tall dude, and to do the deadlift suplex to him was very cool. Good showing by Kratos, but individually, which is, of course, does inform the team going forward, because they go to May Valentine's booth. The crowd is really behind Kratos. We got a bit of a Kratos chant happening. The Chase Park Plaza Ballroom is hopping tonight. Lots of support for the talent. Kratos talks about how everyone expected his team with Aaron Stevens to split. But Kratos, he says he believes in brotherhood and he believes in loyalty, and he is standing by Aaron Stevens' side very proudly. All the while he's saying all these wonderful things, Stevens is looking quite ejected. He's just kind of like moping around. He didn't really contribute to the tag team match, and he doesn't know what to really make there. At which point Kratos puts over Aaron as being a general in the NWA, but a very insecure one. He says deep down, Kratos sees that there is a killer that needs to come out of Aaron Stevens. He delivers a great line here. He says to Stevens, conflict delayed is conflict multiplied. Very cool line from here. He challenges Aaron to step up and stop burying that killer inside him, and together they're going to be able to tear everyone down. He leaves Aaron before he can say anything, and his own piece that he says is, I got to do some soul searching. I got some decisions to make. Yes, Mr. Walder, it is the Ticket Show. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. But yeah, I know whose show it is, but until he starts developing opinions on the NWA, you're stuck with me. And, you know, I'm going to take advantage of that. Really great stuff in this promo, though, because this was a surprising direction for the tag team of Kratos and Stevens, but a very welcome one. Kratos said, as Kratos said, everyone expected this team to split, myself included. That seemed like the direction that they were going until they kind of became more cohesive as a unit. But with NWA's lack of teams right now, Kratos and Stevens have this very interesting new direction to kind of play with. Like if you were ever going to say that there was going to be a mentorship protege program between these two individuals, you almost expect Stevens to kind of have that be the role of the mentor. I'm not saying Kratos Jr. isn't like an experienced wrestler himself. I'm just kind of, I'm going through my own expectations with Aaron Stevens perhaps being the more notable name of the two. But this leaves a very compelling opportunity for Aaron Stevens to tap into something else, because his best work is good. He's a good wrestler in the ring, but he has been excelling when he is a character, a big bombastic, whether he's Shooter Stevens, whether he's Damian Sandow, that's when he's at his best. Tapping into Kratos is going to bring him. That's going to be an interesting direction. I'm seeing something going on with my tech again. Please let me know if there's something going on with my sound, and I will do what I can to correct it. But yeah, that's my take on Kratos and Stevens. Very excited to see where it goes from there. Bobby Petito stopping by on YouTube. I would like Kylie Rae versus Kenzie Page. I would like Kylie Rae versus just about anyone on the NWA roster. Anytime Kylie Rae is on screen, I have time for that. And yeah, Kenzie Page, yeah, I welcome that match as well, certainly. And you have to imagine Kylie Rae is going to be sniffing the NWA women's title pictures sooner than later after Camille resolves her current programs. And hopefully along the way, Kylie Rae can have some nice exhibitions against the likes of Kenzie Page, Melina, and just about anyone else on that roster. I have time to see that. Next, we got a face-to-face between James Storm and Mr. Excitement himself, Jedias. Storm, he lays out the challenge. He says, Jedias, I'll fight you in any kind of match that you want. Bring barbed wire, bring a steel cage. Let's do a tables match, whatever. Let's fight so long as you put on that national championship #1 contendership on the line. Father James Mitchell steps in and he denies the chance of for contendership. But if James Storm wants to put himself in harm's way, there can be they can arrange a match between the Cowboy James Storm and Jedias. Storm, he spits back with a little fire. He tells Jedias to pull Father James Mitchell's puppet hand out of his own ass, and he'll see him in the ring sometime down the line. Man, this program isn't doing anything for me. I'm a big Cowboy James Storm fan. Jedias, man, he didn't have the best welcoming party to NWA. He came out of nowhere and he won a battle royal at NWA 73, one that really overstayed its welcome as a match on the card, went on way too long. And, Jedias, he came in, left everyone wondering who he was. It was just it lacks a lot. And I think Jedias has a lot of work to overcome that obstacle of, he's kind of shoehorned or, he's what's the word I'm looking for? He's stuck, he's stuck in a bit of, he's got a lot of work to get over like this expectation of him because he's not doing it for me. We move on to the next, the first singles match of the evening between Paola Blaze and Marty Bell. Well, Mr. Walter popping in once more. Some say that battle royal is still going on. Yeah, that was a long one, and legend has it, if it's still going on, my sympathies with those in the Chase Park Plaza Ballroom. First singles match of the night between Paola Blaze and Marty Bell. Tag team contendership on the line. It's been established that if Marty Bell or Allison Kay lose a match against the opposing Paola Blaze and Genocide in singles competition in the coming weeks, then the team of Blaze and Genocide will have a chance at the NWA Women's Tag Team Championship. But as the match is going on, the focus at the commentary booth is on their special guest, Melina. She's talking about her new partnership with Chris Adonis and her own problems with Adonis's other cohort, Camille. getting a little complex. It's getting a little, the waters are getting a little muddy here. All the while, Blaze and Belle are, they're going back and forth. Paula is able to goad Marty in with a few taunts a few times. Allison Kay and Genocide on the outside, they come to blows while after Genocide gets involved into the match itself. Paula retains advantage until Marty Belle is able to pick up the pace and finish Paula off with a pedigree that is named Hell's Bells. I don't want to say this was a bad match, but they didn't have a lot of time, and in the brief time they had, they didn't click. I really like that the NWA is presently investing so much time in the NWA women's tag team division, and I really like that the Hex, and I hope that Paula, Blaze, and Genocide are able to bring a credible challenge to the NWA women's tag team champs. After the match, though, the big takeaway here is Camille blindsiding Melina, certainly overhearing what Melina had to say about her while working commentary. And she wails on her. She knocks her out. We go to commercial with Joe Galley and Velvet Sky checking on Melina. After Melina and Camille's respective showings at NWA 73, Melina against Deonna Purrazzo and Camille against legit Layla Hirsch, two of the best matches of the entire NWA weekend, I got time for this match. I very much look forward to Camille versus Melina, and I think anyone who has watched those matches at NWA 73 is just as excited as I am, because man, you can never say enough good about Melina, and Camille is just really growing in her role. I like this point from Bobby. I would like to see the Sea Stars show up in the NWA. One Ashley Vox, have a wrestler for the NWA before Delmi Exo haven't wrestled for the NWA. They can wrestle against Allison Kay and Marty Belle. I'll admit, I can't really speak too intelligently about the Sea Stars, but a lot of people a lot of my peers who cover wrestling have a lot of respect for the Sea Stars and a lot of appreciation for their work. So by buzz alone, I would be very welcoming to that match, and padding up the NWA women's tag team division is that'd be very welcome with more stars showing up. Absolutely. What do we move on to? We move on to, okay, this is a bit of a revolving door at May Valentine's podium doing some interviews. First, she's speaking to the Pope. Pope is talking about his own championship opportunity coming his way. He has a lot of respect for Trevor Murdoch as a man, as a father, and as a champion. And Pope acknowledges, he doesn't have the element of surprise. This isn't something he can just cash in. But he has the advantage of being the Pope with the swagger that only the Pope can execute. I'm looking forward to that match, I'll admit. Whatever happens, whenever that match happens, I'm very much looking forward to it. And while I have zero qualms with the NWA putting the NWA championship on Trevor Murdoch. I thought that was a great move, especially after the extended program between himself and Aldis. But I do think that the NWA missed the boat on the opportunity for Pope and Aldis. I think those are two very dynamic characters that they could have done a lot of interesting work together. And maybe there's room for that down the line. But for now, I'm looking forward to Murdoch versus Pope, but I'm also, I'm regretfully wondering what could have been between Aldis and Pope. Pope for champ. I mean, that's a good pick. That's a great pick, Ed. Pope has been doing wonderful work in the NWA. He's been doing wonderful work a whole long while. Lots to like about the idea of Pope as champ. I don't think he'll be the one to dethrone Trevor Murdoch, but we'll see. Bigger surprises have happened. May turns her attention to JTG and Colby Carino. May begins with Jay, but Carino kind of tries to interject, and May just brushes him off. Kind of got a pop from me. Carino still kind of takes control of the segment, and he says that his rivalry with Hawks Airy informs next week's tag team championship match, tag team tournament match. Excuse me. Carino takes exception with Luke and PJ calling him himself and his family disrespectful, and he says that PJ's victory over Colby was an absolute fluke at NWA 73. I'm really liking seeing Colby Carino in the NWA. I think he's a great fit and an emerging young talent. Obviously, he's got the lineage, but it's not his last name that's cutting these promos. A lot of potential in Colby, and I look forward to seeing what's going on in his career going forward. What I don't like, though, is either of them being thrown into this tag team for the sake of the tournament, but especially JTG. Like JTG has been killing it. Like he had in NWA momentum. Like he was picking up wins. He was in marquee matches, and now he's being put on the back burner. You know, and I can't help but think of Jedias. I feel like he has, like JTG should have the opportunity that Jedias presently has. And I'm not talking about challenging for a championship. I'm talking about being in a program of substance. Colby has gotten very good at making this program with Hawks airy personal, and he's done great. But now JTG is just kind of tagging in for the sake of padding up the tournament, and I would like to see him have a better spot. But you know, that is what it is. So with that, we're just going to take a quick short break while I have a sip of water. I have a little preview to show you because my other program here on the Love Wrestling Network is the Smark and Friends podcast. And what we're going to be doing this week is I'm going to be reviewing the film The Package, starring Stone Cold Steve Austin and Dolph Lundgren. And joining me for this review will be a staple of the online wrestling community, for lack of a better term, Mr. Fowl Original. Enjoy the clip.
He goes home. He finds his wife set in the mood. They bang. She asks what they would do if all the work and the debt to Doug just magically disappeared. What would they do? They entertain the idea of him working as a bouncer. They bang again. You know,
there's a line that he says there actually, which is
Please.
great. Like that. Okay, number one, yeah. It is amazing that a lot of this movie is Stone Cold's a good guy. And he's a really good guy. And then she asked this particular, she asked him, can he be the bouncer? You know, just be a bouncer and stuff. And he's like, there's not a great demand for my kind of skills in your world. That's when they bang again. Like, that's his way. Like, that's his, but like, you know, I would, but I can't because I'm stone cold. God damn it. And don't you know, like, these are my skills with these hands. Yeah, I will service, but not in your world. I don't know what is her world like, that she knows what he does. So,
I mean, she's certainly a lot more innocent than the debt collector Stone Cold Steve Austin. But again, I'm kind of like, I know you want to build a connection, show that Tommy has connections outside of this world and everything, but who is this scene for? Because it's Attitude Era kids who grew up who want to watch more Stone Cold Steve Austin. I didn't want to watch Stone Cold Steve Austin bang. I'm just going to say it. I didn't.
It's the class. It's like, this is why when I was watching the film, it's like, is this movie supposed to have been like a much bigger film, like in the sense of a much bigger budgeted film than it was? Because in that particular scene, they do the classic, like they go to bang and then they go out of focus and they go away, they pan away. That's the kind of stuff you do on like basic cable. That's the kind of stuff that you do for a TV movie when, yeah, ain't nobody want to see that. Or maybe they realize that part way through. They're like, who would this sex scene actually be for? Let's quickly just zip away. You all know what's happened.
That was my review of The Package, starring Stone Cold Steve Austin and Dolph Lundgren with Fowl Original. If you want to check out the movie and join us for the review on Thursday, you can watch it for free on Tubi.tv. So enjoy as you please. You know, I actually went to that commercial halfway through this interview segment because next up, May welcomes Chelsea Green and Kiera Hogan. Green has gone full hot mess. You know, she's just kind of like screaming. She says next time she sees Camille, she'll kill her, something she screams away from the mic. Kiera, when she's given the opportunity to speak, she speaks about her grievances on why she got in Mickie James' face last week after her match, or perhaps that was the week before. But she says Mickie James' respect means the whole world to her because Mickie James is someone that she has looked up to throughout her whole career. And it really hurt to hear what Mickie James had to say about her at commentary. You know, truth be told, I don't quite recall what Mickie James said, but I don't really recall anything like that felt damning of Kiera Hogan in any way. But, you know, perhaps I missed it, admittedly. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And, you know, I really like this idea of a program between Kiera Hogan and Mickie James. I think they've really set the table for some nice substance between them. I think that's a great idea to have them feud because Kiera's respect for Mickie James is kind of being questioned, I suppose. But what was a little weird is like Kiera Hogan heard this from the ring while she was wrestling, while Mickie James was 12 feet away on the commentary table. It's a slight dissonance, but I'm still looking forward to the angle. We move on to the main event. It's a triple threat match for the #1 contendership to the television championship. We got Jordan Clearwater taking on Scion, taking on Jeremiah Plunkett. Scion and Clearwater work as affiliates to Austin Idol, and they play the numbers game on Jeremiah Plunkett for the beginning of the match. But Plunkett's able to light a little fire, and he's able to keep both opponents at bay. Eventually, Clearwater and Scion have a bit of falling out with the contendership on the line, of course, taking the fight to one another. Finish comes with Black G's distracting the ref while Idol lays out Scion while Clearwater picks up the W. This TV title scene is a bit of a mess right now because Austin Idol came out as Scion's client or affiliate. And aside from like a brief interaction at NWA 73 where he was working with Austin Idol's clients, which by the way include Jordan Clearwater, this was presented as a bigger betrayal than it actually was. It didn't sell me, like they didn't sell me as like bonded affiliates. Like this isn't a shock that Austin Idol betrayed Scion, and bless the commentary's heart, they're trying to sell it as such, but that's not the program that they have been showing me on the TV. And again, like he did this in favor of Jordan Clearwater, who he is also, of course, affiliated with. And this, it's again, just, it always felt like with NWA that the left hand wasn't talking to the right. And that was mostly my commentary on what I had to say about like the production crew and, their social media presence. Now it's I feel like it's kind of spilling into the creative direction, at least of the television program title direction. But we move on to the main event that is not a match. It's the main event Humiliation Showdown, a slap fight. Yes, you heard that right, a slap fight between Crimson and Jax Dane. They're going back and forth, slapping one another. You cannot block, you cannot flinch, otherwise you are disqualified. This was interestingly presented. Yes, Ed, you heard that right. It was a slap fight. By the way, thank you for everyone who's waiting patiently for the NXT review. Ed, Astrid, and Cody are going to be with you in just a moment, but I have a slap fight to review, and you got to let me have my time to review my slap fights. Because again, I was surprised. This was very interestingly presented. Trevor Murdoch was out there as the special judge in the slap fight. They had refs behind both men waiting to catch them if they were both knocked out by their opponent's slap. Crimson rocked the first slap, is rocked at the first slap, as is Jax Dane. When Jax Dane's second slap comes around, he just balls his fist and pretty much ends the contest by knocking Crimson down with a fist. While Murdoch tries to pull Dane off, Strictly Business comes in to attack Murdoch. Pope comes in for the save. Jedias comes out to attack Adonis, while Storm comes out for Adonis. It's bedlam everywhere. We get some FaceTime between Jax Dane and Trevor Murdoch, who also have a title match somewhere down the line. And that is how the night ends in absolute bedlam. It was probably for the best that they didn't advertise this as a slap fight, because that is ripe for mockery. And I must admit with some shame, I probably would have taken part in that. Cody Defoe, a slap fight. We should have had the How I Met Your Mother team out to judge it. Yeah, I got time for Neil Patrick Harris coming out on my NWA TV. Absolutely. But I would have made fun of it, but they delivered. It was a fun segment. I was expecting a match, and while I'm a little miffed that it didn't happen, credit to NWA. They never advertised one. They never said Jax Dane and Crimson are going one-on-one. They just called it humiliation, a humiliating main event or something to that effect. Kudos to them for sidestepping all that. And Trevor Murdoch was really fun to watch here too. He was like sitting back as much as he was the judge. He was like the guy at the bar who's watching two guys fight and just having a big laugh over it. I thought he looked like he was having a blast. If I was nitpicking, Trevor Murdoch should have had the NWA championship with him, but that's a finer detail. closing brawl. It put a lot of heat, a little heat on a bunch of different rivalries, which is always nice. And once again, the ghost of this champion series, which you know how much I hate, it just follows me because the result of that. Presently, they're trying to build 2 matches for Trevor Murdoch as a result of those contests. One with the Pope, one with Jax Dane, which I'm not saying you can't do, but you have to tread lightly. They're treading lightly with both rivalries, and I'm waiting for him to put the gas on one of them. So let's hope that's sometime soon. Friends, thank you once again for joining me all by myself for an episode of Powerrrout. My name is Zach Ralph. I'm the host of the show. If you want to follow me on social media, please do so on Twitter @SmarkMouth. You can also do it on Instagram @Smark.mouth. And you can follow my my other project here at Love Wrestling @SmarkandFriends. Please do so. I'm going to be, I'm going to let you go. And I'm going to, Astrid, Cody, and Ed are going to take over. And they've got your reaction to the first episode of NXT 2.0 with NXT. So I hope you enjoy that. I'm sure you will. And we're going to they're going to be back just after this short little extra. Take care, friends. Where's the extra? There it is.
And whoa, that's not the right screen. Hold on.
Ooh.
There we go. That's a much better screen.
New brand? We'll just go like triangles up and down?
I mean, we can. If you want to go back to the vertical view, we can do the vertical view.
No.
So, welcome to the NXT show, where we're going to be spilling the tea of NXT. And God, do we have a lot to talk about tonight. This was the most jam-packed, noteworthy NXT in God knows how long. This was more noteworthy than some takeovers. Not all good, mind you. I mean, this is a rocky road that we're going to get on. But welcome to the new branding. You can see some of our temporary stuff right now. With the war finally over, we decided to go with NXT. We're going to spill the tea. We're going to talk all things NXT with your new NXT team. We have Astrid. That way. And we have Cody down here. Over here. And this will be our new team for NXT. And we welcome you all here. Thank you, Zach, for doing Powerrrout again. Yes. Parrish in here with my old crew. And Alex in here with It's Tea Time. It is tea time, although I think Cultaholic has that one, so we're gonna lay off that one just a little bit in case they find out. But that being said, there's so much to talk about. Samoa Joe had to relinquish the NXT Championship. We had a fatal four-way for the NXT Championship with a competitor none of us had heard of before the start of the night. We had a wedding. I mean, Astrid is still beaming from the wedding, which took place over a half an hour ago. And my God, this was one of the most incredible wrestling weddings that I've ever seen. I don't know if Cody's in stunned silence or if his video's broken, but we're going to keep going with it because it's great. We're going to start with Samoa Joe because this is a very unfortunate thing. So on, I believe it was Sunday night, Samoa Joe, and Cody has fallen out, so I'm assuming something happened with this video. Mm-hmm. Cody will join us again in just a moment. But Astrid, on Sunday night, we're all focusing on Twitter, and we're doing this and we're doing that. I know you were talking to me about the Ring of Honor pay-per-view and how they were killing it with Roxy as their new champion. And all of a sudden, Samoa Joe drops a thing on his Twitter which says that unfortunately, due to injury, he has to relinquish his NXT World Championship. This is a shame. This is a real shame, but it's something we mentioned with me and you on the post NXT Takeover show, that Joe looked rocked after that match. Joe looked glassy-eyed. I believe it's probably a concussion because of the fact that that's the last injury he had before he went away. Cody says he'll be trying to get back, so we'll just continue without him for now, and then when he gets back, we'll get all his thoughts on anything that we've talked about. Christian needs who's sugar in the tea with a trio this sweet. Parrish, we appreciate it. I love you, man. It's great. Astrid, your thoughts on Samoa Joe and his relinquishing of the NXT title right after having won it, shortly after having done this again, what feels like not long ago with Karrion Kross.
Yeah, I feel like the championship seems kind of cursed at this point with everything happening, but it was so shocking to see the promo from him just like that. I wasn't sure what to think of it at first, but it's upsetting. But at the same time, I've probably figured out, we all figured out from the beginning the 4-way would turn into the championship match, which obviously we loved everybody that participated in the match that was originally there, obviously. But it's just upsetting to see him basically lose the championship this way. But I guess it will give us some opportunity that he can come back and say he never lost it. He can get into the title picture that way.
Yeah, and Cody, I'm sure you saw it, but just to reiterate, we're still talking about the Samoa Joe relinquishing of the world title. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I threw it out there at the group earlier yesterday when the announcement came down and everything, that I know after that takeover event we were all really concerned about kind of how he looked in that match and his health and his well-being. And I mean, from a starter's perspective, the fact that we're that worried about him on one hit in his first match back, and now maybe it was something with that, maybe this is storyline, maybe it's something else, but I think we're at a point where do we really want to see him on our screens if he can't be himself and we're always worrying about his health and his well-being? I loved him on commentary. I know we love him as a wrestler, but I think it might just be time to call it an end to a wrestling ring career.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree with both of you on all those facts, but especially with what Cody says. If this is something that's going to continue to pop up, and it's the reason why Corey Graves isn't in the ring right now. It's the reason why Daniel Bryan took so long to get back in the ring after everything happened with him, Bryan Danielson, however you want to call him. Concussions are a problem. It's why Alexa Bliss for a long time wasn't in the ring after she came back, and she was doing backstage stuff with everybody, and it's why her talk show started, is because they were worried about her grabbing another concussion. Concussions are dangerous. Concussions can really screw up a wrestler, but not only for the now, but for their future. And so I like it that they're playing it safe. They saw something they didn't like. He probably had some coach. Again, we're assuming concussion. It could be anything. I mean, he hasn't been in the ring other than a quick promo segment where he did no physicality whatsoever for the most part. Since his match with Kross. So I think it sucks that we have to lose him, but I agree with Cody. If this is going to be a continuing thing, Samoa Joe on commentary, Samoa Joe taking over for William Regal, or because there's no room on the Raw desk where he was. There's really no room right now for Samoa Joe to go back to that spot. I really like the Raw team as they are. I think that they've kind of anchored down. But moving forward with NXT on that respect.
Before we move on, Ed, what about him on SmackDown? I mean, you've got the Cole and McAfee team right now that's only a two-man team. How do you think Joe would fit there?
That would be really interesting. Now that you bring it up, I wasn't thinking about that. But a three-man team with Samoa Joe doing the wrestling side of the in-ring competition, like a Corey Graves to McAfee's, Byron Saxton, could be real good. I don't know how Joe would mix with McAfee in general. I think he'd mix really great with Cole. So either of those two-man teams, especially if McAfee starts getting busy and decides to add another project to his lengthy list of $7 million projects that he's done, if he inevitably leaves, Joe would be a really great fill-in there. So yeah, but there's so much on Joe's plate that he can do. You know, he was talking about in his promo a couple weeks ago that he was helping find the next group of NXT talent with MVP and William Regal and people like that. So there's always going to be something for Samoa Joe to do as long as he wants to be here. If he wants to be in the ring, he may have to start doing it on the indies, and he may have to start doing it in another company, because I really think that this might be the end of his in-ring career with WWE, because they're scared of the concussion word. They've had the lawsuits. They've had everything else like that. Parrish wants him to replace Byron. I love these segments. He was fantastic last night as Big E won that title. And by the way, congratulations to Big E on becoming the WWE World Champion. Good on you. That was great. We're going to now move on. Oh, we've lost Cody again. Cody's having some technical issues. Hopefully he can get them sorted out. If not, we will figure something out, but we will get Cody's thoughts as we go through the show. Normally here we would, after something big like this, we would just jump into the show as a whole. But we're not going to do that tonight, because tonight, not only is it the rebrand where we have to at length discuss the rebrand of NXT, because my God, is there a lot to talk about with that. We had the Index wedding finally. So at this point, I am now going to hand over to Astrid Pizarro as she goes ahead as our Indexpert and talks about all of the wonderful things that happened with this wedding.
I feel like I have no words at this point. After everything that we saw, I feel like we expected so many things, and I feel like they went and they changed what we were thinking about, because that's not what we planned or what we hoped would happen. First, going from like Austin coming up and showing up out of nowhere backstage with Gargano, I thought that was so freaking funny. But it's just funny to think that he didn't show him.
Him bringing a priest, and then finding out it's Damian Priest, and Austin still being the perfect Austin Theory that he was before. My God, I didn't realize how much I missed him with this crew. Yeah. He is an absolute godsend. Again, the mix of Odyssey Jones, Cameron Grimes, and Johnny Gargano is the perfect group of misfit toys that I can't turn away from. They bring, we were talking about it with the wedding itself, that it's just one of those things where I put it as it was the perfect borderline between being absolute comedy gold and almost going too far. I think you can agree there. Like, there were points in this where I thought they almost went too far. But it was, the characters pulled it off. Johnny Gargano, Indy Hartwell is an absolute freaking star in this comedy gold. It's just everything. Cody's saying he's still having some technical difficulties with his Wi-Fi. If Cody can get back, we will absolutely bring him back in. If not, we will try to see what we can do from there. So we move on from the backstage segment. We get a couple more throughout the night. We get a very short one with Candice where she's like, nothing's perfect, and it was because Indy's friend had a hat on. I mean, I thought that was a really throwaway, dumb segment that they had, but it was fine. We finally get to the wedding segment where people are starting to come down the aisle to go ahead and take their seats. And we get this great one where the grizzled young veterans are literally just trashing a wedding and being like, I hate this. I don't know why I'm here. I hope Dexter doesn't even bother showing up. Oh, it was great. The grizzled young veterans still putting themselves over. We come back from break and we have everybody sat down. I do find it interesting that we have Saray like front and center on like the right side. But we have Io Shirai and Kushida as far away from Saray as we can. And I'm like, why do you have them over there? Like, why is she not with the rest of the group? All right, we're going to bring Cody back in because I think he's ready. Hello, Cody. Are we back?
Try it one more time. I can't get into change the channel for my router the way I want to right now, but
no worries. I just don't.
And I'll restart it and take 5.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that we, you know, if you were here and ready, that we were going to keep trying to get you in here.
Yeah.
So we're just going over the basics of the wedding. We're getting to the point. We went over the part early in the show where we had Austin Theory return, which was great after his long absence, and he brings in Damian Priest. And then we were talking about the throwaway segment where Candice LeRae got mad because Indy's friend was wearing a hat. And then we were talking about as everybody came down the aisle, and I was mentioning that I thought it was unusual that you had Kushida and Io Shirai sat in the second row all the way up by the wedding party. And then you had Saray on the opposite side of the ring all the way in the front corner. I'm like, you couldn't just put her with her friends? Like, really? This is also the most misfit like gathering of like WWE like NXT superstars. People I noticed, you had Casey and Casey, the Grizzled Young Veterans,
MSK.
What's MSK, Indy, I'm sorry, Io, Kushida. We had
Austin
Adrian,
Chase.
Austin Chase or Adrian Chase, which we'll get to because that was great. So then we get to the actual ceremony, and Indy's there, and Dexter's there, and they start asking who's going to give Indy away. And Johnny starts listing all his wonderful wrestling nicknames, which was great and fantastic and perfect. And he's still going, and they say, no, Johnny, just say you. And he's like, all right, fine, John Gargano. And Candice finally pulls him away. And I think it's great that they gave him his own little mic that I couldn't find. Like, I couldn't find where the lapel mic was hidden on his body, which was great. We get to the portion where they're talking, and they're like, does anybody have just cause why this wedding shouldn't happen? Everybody puts their hands up, which I think is the greatest portion of this wedding. And Dexter, and I will repeat this verbatim from what I put in the chat, but I will censor myself because I'm sure Spencer will get mad at me if I don't. So all of a sudden, Loomis opens his jacket, and he turns to the entire crowd, and he has a hatchet in his jacket, which I didn't realize how poetic that was until I said it now. And everybody slowly puts their hands down. And in the group chat that we were talking in tonight, I put, he has a freaking hatchet.
Did he steal it from the axe throwing last week, though?
That's what I was wondering.
Probably. I mean, he is supposedly in Impact. He was a serial killer. And his name is derived from Dexter. So it might be his own hatchet. I don't know. Especially with the way that when we get to Beth Phoenix later on, because God, we're going to get to her too. But so far, I mean, this has been absolute comedy gold, correct?
Yeah.
Like,
and you didn't even mention the part where Johnny started asking who had the rings.
Yeah. Oh, I did forget about this. Oh my God, how did I forget? So Johnny, for some stupid reason, decided that Austin Theory was going to hold on to the rings today. Why Johnny thought that was a good idea, I don't know, but he did. Which again, comedy gold because Austin Theory is fantastic. We have Parrish in here saying that it looked like the same hatchet that he helped Johnny with. It probably was the same hatchet from last week. Parrish also says Seth Rollins is the Drip Kings, but Cody Wi-Fi is the Drop King.
Tonight, at least.
Yeah, and we haven't pointed it out that Gargano and Odyssey, and I believe Cameron too, they're dressed up like Dexter's usually dressed up as well.
Yes, they all have the gloves on, the black gloves. At one point, they were all shirtless at one point in the back, I think. I know Cameron Grimes was. I think Odyssey might have had a shirt on. I don't know if Johnny did or not. So Austin's like, no, I gave him to my buddy. All of a sudden, Jiro Ikoman stands up, and I'm like, why are you standing up? And he opens his jacket because apparently I want everybody to see the inside of my jacket. They really should have put some advertising inside these jackets. It would have been a great thing to do to make some money. But he has the box with the rings in it. Johnny's very confused as to why Iko has the rings, but it is what it is.
Meanwhile, Austin in the background shouting, "We're in a ring."
Yes, Austin Theory. There's so much in this. If you haven't watched this, if you watch nothing else on this show, and honestly, there's not much else to watch on this show. I'll be brutally honest. There's not a whole lot more I would suggest watching from this show. But if you're gonna watch something, it's this wedding. Watch the last 15 minutes of this show because it's great. So we continue with the wedding. And so now nobody's going to object because Dexter has an axe. And Indy goes ahead and does her vows, and they're beautiful and they're sweet, and everybody's like, "Aw." And then the preacher asks Dexter for his vows, and Dexter gives a thumbs up, which was fantastic. And everybody's like, cool, we're moving on. We're not doing anything about this. We're just letting it go. And the preacher's like, no, we're not moving on. Stop. Sir, your soon-to-be wife just gave you these beautiful vows. Don't you have anything nice to say? And Dexter gives him the death stare and then puts him in the silence and puts the priest down, which was absolutely fantastic. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. The wedding's not going to happen because Johnny's going to get mad that Dexter put out the priest. Or there's going to be no priest. So all of a sudden they're like, we need a priest. And I'm like, all right, cool. Look to the front. Damian Priest is going to come out and he's been ordained or something like that. Nope. They swerve us again. Mr. Regal. Johnny wants Mr. Regal to do it. And Mr. William Regal looks absolutely dumbfounded. Like, this isn't in my job description. I believe in the words he mouthed to Johnny Gargano in that segment. Meanwhile, just behind his right shoulder, you have zombie referee in the zombie makeup again. Again, perfect synergy with this whole Dexter Lumis character and feud. And it's just, oh my God, I feel like I've been talking for 10 minutes, but there's just so much.
Mm-hmm.
So we continue with the wedding. So now we have no priest. William Regal is saying he's not going to do it. All of a sudden, from out of nowhere, Beth starts running up the ring stairs. And Beth is going to go ahead and do it. And she says, I thought something like this might happen, so I went ahead and got myself ordained last night. And I'm like, yay! Beth will save the day. And Beth is dressed beautifully, and it's great. And Beth goes ahead and starts doing the rest. And we go ahead and we get to Indy Says I Do. They put the rings on. Dexter goes ahead and Dexter says nothing. And she's like, all right, we're just going to go with it. It's cool. We're going to move on. And Dexter holds her mic and covers it up. And I'm like, uh-oh. Is this where Dexter turns heel and ruins everything on his own? No, it's not when he does it. Because all of a sudden we finally get what a lot of us thought might happen. Dexter's first words, which are I, long pause, do. And everybody cheers. The crowd goes wild. Austin Theory throws something in the crowd. I really don't know what it was, but I saw a bunch of the crowd jump to the right. I mean, it's just, my God, this segment had so much going on for a 10-minute segment. The wedding goes off with only the one hitch that was expected, which is that we hitch Indy Hartwell to Dexter Lumis. They kiss. They are now Mr. and Mrs. Dexter Lumis. It is going to be fantastic. And then we think the show was going to end there, but we then get a stare down with the new NXT champion, which we'll get to in a moment. And the first person we're going to talk about tonight, in a moment, Braun Breaker with 2 Ks. Why 2 Ks? Because WWE wanted to.
And
there's gonna be a lot of
B-R-O-N.
Yes, B-R-O-N.
It can't be the same as Braun Strowman. It has to be something new.
It's like LeBron, but without the la. So first, before we get to this, Astrid, was the wedding everything you wanted it to be?
They exceeded my expectations every single way. I don't think I'll be able to forget about this wedding for quite some time, and it makes me realize, like, is this like the first one of the modern era to actually go through? To be honest, because I'm like, I was not expecting that being a WWE wedding and all,
In WWE, I want to say it's probably the first time since probably Liz and Macho that it goes off without a hitch. I'm pretty sure there was no issues with Kip Sabian and Penelope's. But I think part of that was because it was their actual wedding. I don't know if people actually knew that. They had a real priest and a real minister, and they had their real family nearby, so they could go ahead and do that as a legitimate wedding. It was the legitimate wedding of the Kip and Penelope. So that was a slight difference. Uh-oh. Now Cody's cat's having some connection. Oh, it's dog. Sorry, dog's having connection issues. Cody, what were your thoughts on the wedding?
I loved it. It was probably one of the most memorable weddings in recent memory, for sure. I think the last one that really stood out as that well executed was Edge and Lita.
Yep. I was gonna say Kane and Lita too. That's a very memorable one with Matt Hardy going through the ring.
Yeah. Yeah, Kane and Lita was good. Edge and Lita was good. I mean, other than that, you have to go back to Hunter and Stephanie before I can really remember anything else really solid. So, no, all of the notes, all of the comedy, it was just absolutely brilliantly laid out. I know I mentioned it in chat. We're like 6 minutes to the hour and we hadn't even started the wedding yet. I'm like, how are they going to pull this off? And for what they pulled off in a little over 10 minutes with the overrun, I think it ended up being, they jammed it in there, but it didn't feel jammed. It felt like it took its time. It had time to breathe, and it was still just so well done.
It's amazing how well, like I want to say we've probably spoken about this wedding for 20 minutes, but they really, like Cody said, it fit in that time slot of 10-ish minutes that they had so perfectly well, where I think it was the only thing that was actually well timed on the entire show. Because I think everything else on the show had a lack of time, had some kind of issue with timing. So now we're finally going to get into the meat and potatoes review of the show that we normally do, which will probably start most every show. But this show is just too... Actually, no, we're not going to get into the meat and potatoes review. Because now we have to talk about the actual rebrand of NXT. Because I'm not calling it what they're calling it. Because I'm not adding that stupid tagline on it. It's not NXT 2.0. Zach coming in here. This sounds great, but was there a slap fight? No, but that would have made it perfect. So maybe next time WWE will add a slap fight to the rest.
Chase and Odyssey should have been a slap fight.
Oh my god.
We didn't even talk about that. I forgot about that. So, you know what? Just watch it. Just watch it. Just watch the show. It's. So we're going to get to the rebrand of NXT. I'm going to let Cody start with this one because we're all going to have our own thoughts about it. What did you think about the look of the arena, the look of the ring? I'm going to mention ring ropes because it's going to come up when I talk about it. So I figure maybe we'll prompt it with everybody else. And then the overall look of the television production of the show.
Honestly, I really appreciated all of it. I may be in the minority here. I may just have a little bit more optimism as a whole at this point. But the look, the aesthetic, the coloring, the lighting, it felt new, it felt fresh, but it felt fun. I loved the new entrance set, the big screens there. It felt a lot more professional than anything we're used to in NXT. I felt like the seating and the way they had that laid out felt a lot more open. Like it just looked like there were more people than it usually does in there. I'm curious to see how it would play out when we actually get like a ringside brawl playing out though, because those glass along the seats looked kind of low. Like people are going to get thrown into people's laps at some point here, which I don't know if that's the best idea if you're not wearing masks, but sure. But the only thing that I really had a knock on, and I know I mentioned it right off the bat in our side chat there, Ed, was the graphic with people's names when they're coming out. I feel like it doesn't fit like teams like Imperium coming out with their real somber, dark, brooding personalities like Imperium have, and then you have this bright splash of color in the corner of the screen down there. It just didn't fit, and I feel like they need to personalize that a little bit more to each personality, and then they will have hit on all cylinders for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on a lot of this. I really like it. I really love the way that the arena looks. It's clean, I would say. It looks really clean, as in like aesthetically pleasing to the eye clean. There's no real area that makes your eyes don't jump from here to there. The caging, which I really liked when they were doing it out of, and they're still doing it out of it, but the CWC, when they had that look in the pandemic of the black with the hockey railings and everything else, that looked really well. Astrid's back, so we'll go ahead and get Astrid's thought in a moment. We're all apparently having technical difficulties. I'm hoping I stay up, because if I go down, I don't know what happens to the stream. We'll find out.
I'm logged into it. Should stay up.
Okay. So, needless to say, I really like the thing. I agree with Cody on the nameplates, like you said, especially with Imperium, doesn't fit with them. But I think that's something that they can learn and learn from. I think that can change. I think people can get personalized nameplates if they need to. The thing I'm going to mention is, it was mentioned by JPJ in our chat, I didn't like the pure white ring ropes. they're trying to make this colorful. They're trying to make everything else kind of bright and, eye grabbing. I would have thought continuing with the red, white, and blue ropes would have been cool. Like they do I believe the main roster has the red, white, and blue ropes. That would have just been a little bit better for me. But overall, the rebrand looks really cool. When we get to the rebrand of how they're portraying the show and other things like that, we're going to run into some things when we get through our full rundown of the show. Astrid, your thoughts on the aesthetics of the new rebrand?
I feel like it was better than what I thought it would have been, because I was kind of like concerned, I would say maybe, how it would look with all the colors. But like that side with the Titantron and everything, it looks so nice and well done. And I like how it looks at the audience. It looks like there's more people in the CWC and there's more space between like the ring and the fans. So I really like how it looked in that sense. I kind of want to go there already after only seeing one episode. So let's see how it goes.
It feels like Full Sail again. Like to me, it looks and feels a little like Full Sail. I know it's not got those same specialty things that Full Sail has, but it definitely has that Full Sail feel. It felt like a Full Sail crowd again. That NXT crowd was back. They were loud. They were into everything. For good or for bad, they were into it all. Alex Ecto Guy says it reminds him of an NWA studio show. I agree, but I think it's on the higher end of an NWA studio show. I think it's definitely on the Impact side of studio shows as opposed to those WCW Saturday nights and things like that with a rotating ring and if you've never seen an old school WCW Saturday night, you need to go watch it where they have like the little rotating platform ring. It's great. Now, sorry.
I think the one thought I had during the show was I almost feel like they should have just went balls to the wall with it and just turn all of the lights up in the building, because during the matches you have their great big spotlight and then just kind of the random splotches of color in the crowd. Just turn the lights all on. Let's lighten the show up. Make it a bright white arena. Don't dim the crowd anymore. Let everybody be seen.
Yeah. I will say that there were some in our group, the wordsmith most especially, and who knows what's going on in his mind, but he did say that he missed the brooding feel of the old NXT, and I kind of did too. There were portions of this show where I kind of missed that dark, brooding NXT, but then again, a lot of this was good. So we finally get to the actual show. We had a promo that began the show with the Wale music playing behind it, where they have the promo for the Fatal 4-Way tonight, which was originally planned to be Kyle O'Reilly versus LA Knight versus Tommaso Ciampa versus Pete Dunne. That match will not be the match that we see later on tonight, but we'll get there. We then have, as the show gets ready to go to its open, it actually goes to a cold open, and LA Knight is backstage, and he cuts his promo about why he's going to win the match tonight. And then he's interrupted by somebody that none of us have ever seen before. And mind you, that's going to be a theme for the night. People we've never heard of before is going to be the theme of the night. If we make it a drinking game, you're all drunk.
2.0. No, they're on the wrong show.
Yes, yeah, they're on the other show. And there was plenty of tweets that I saw from some AEW fans going, the only 2.0 I want is, and they had the picture of 2.0 as All Elite. That being said, we then had Braun Breaker interrupting LA Knight and telling him he wants to make a name for himself. And LA Knight, out of nowhere, for no reason, puts himself in a wrestling match where he has a match later on in the night for the NXT World Championship. This seemed like a bad idea. I know Cody and I had the same thought when we heard this is, they're going to write LA Knight out of the match by having something happen here. And I think all three of us at that point, when we had mentioned that, all thought we were going to get Carmelo Hayes. Mm-hmm. By the way, that's not the change that happens. We'll get to that. What did you guys think of Braun Breaker versus LA Knight's short match and the surprising outcome? We'll go with Cody first.
I like the action. I was a little confused on that backstage segment because it did seem out of character for LA Knight to just jump on a fight like that. He's a little bit more of that slimy heel where he kind of seemed to be the one picking his shots, and for him to just be like, okay, sure, I'll fight this big guy who I've never seen before. the same night I'm in a championship match. Like, that just seems dumb and out of character and really, really unnecessary. But the match itself was solid. LA managed to hit his spots. He came out strong, and once Braun took over, he's still developmental for sure, but he hit his spots well enough, and I think there's definitely room for him to grow into what he's doing out there. So it was a decent match and a surprising outcome.
Yeah, and Astrid, your thoughts on the win for Braun Breaker after a choke into a power slam, I think they called it.
I definitely, like, if I could show you my notes, mine was what the heck exclamation point. That was just that was the first thing that I put in, because I was like, did I just watch LA Knight lose on the night he has a championship match? Never thought that would happen. But I think it was a good way to introduce us to Braun. But I just, at the same time, do we really want Knight to lose like that? I don't know.
And we do have our friend Aaron Nix, PW, coming in. And you are entirely correct, and we did fail to mention this. Braun Breaker is the son of Rick Steiner. He is a Steiner, to be fair. He will be perfect for this. I agree. I kind of wish they would have gone with Rex Steiner, which was going to be his name, until apparently today, where they came up with this cockamamie name. And again, we'll get to cockamamie names as we go through the show.
Hopefully he knows how to do math.
Now remember, he's Rick's son. He's Rick's son, not Scott's son. So we're going to be okay when it comes to
Doesn't
that.
mean he didn't learn from Uncle Scott.
This is true. He might have learned from Uncle Scott. Oh, God, this show was great. It was so great. My notes turned off. I have to turn it back on. So we go to break. We come back, and Breaker is getting congratulations backstage from a bunch of people. They linger on one with a guy who I still don't know who he was. They didn't give him a name. He didn't say anything. He kind of looked Uso-ish. I think he might be the third. He might be the third Uso. I don't know. But there was a random guy backstage. There was a bunch of random people on this show. And then we get to Imperium coming out. And as Cody said, their entrance looks fantastic on this new staging. This plain background with that bright white light as they come out on this, non-blacked out entrance ramp. Looks really, really cool. The nameplate, like Cody said, needs to be changed. Otherwise, it looked great. And we get to introduce to unknown guy number 2, because we have Josh Briggs, whom we've seen in the breakout tournament, and we've seen in a couple other things, who's a fantastic indie wrestler again in the Northeast area. But we've seen him a couple times on NXT, so at least we know who he is.
Josh Briggs and Brock Jensen, I think.
Yes,
Brock,
unknown number 2, Brooks Jensen, whom I couldn't find anything for on the internet. When I searched his name in WWE and NXT, nothing. No idea who he is. No idea what he did on the indies. He's interesting. I don't know why he's in a tag team with Josh Briggs. It's like a little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll. It might work. They had matching gear, which was interesting. Didn't see that coming. That being said, they go ahead and face Imperium. They fall to Imperium. Imperium does get the win. It wasn't very competitive, but they gave a good showing. Jensen gets a lot of the shine in this match. He gets beat up a lot. He's the one who takes the fall. But they give him the rub and really kind of get it going. Astrid, what did you think of this match?
Yeah, Mike, it served its purpose. I like the showing for Imperium and how they looked in this match. That's the part that I like the most about it so far.
Yeah. And Cody? Uh-oh.
But I found the name of the Fatu. It's, I think, Sefa or Sifa Fatu?
Yes, I believe it's Sifa Fatu. Yeah. If it's the third Uso, which I believe it might be, and we've lost Cody again. Again, Cody's going to try to figure out his internet. If he does return, we will bring him back in as soon as he can. Cody, if you don't, I feel so bad for you, and I'm sorry, because we still have a lot of fun things to talk about throughout this night. We have, again, our friend Aaron. Aaron, correct me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Aaron Nix. Briggs and Jensen. Yeah? Oh, okay, it's WrestlePlug. Okay, yeah. Even better. Briggs and Jensen had a nice throwback look. Badly need a team name to look more legit in my eye. I agree. They do. They definitely have a look. They're not bad. They don't. Oh, there we go. Name pronounced very nicely. Thank you. No worries. I just don't want to butcher people's names, and I have a butcherable name, so I get it sometimes. That being said, they do have a good look. These guys look good. They looked good in the ring, much better than a tag team match we'll talk about later in the night with people who are super green and had way too much time. That being said, they did look good. There's more to these guys in the future. We're quickly getting the glimpse in this first 20 minutes, I want to say, of NXT at this point, that this has gone back to the old days of NXT. This is a very developmental brand where we're going to be developmental heavy on big name stars, taking on guys we haven't heard of, and putting these guys out there and really teaching them the ropes, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but USA really, really better be knowledgeable of what's about to happen, because this is going to be a very die-hard wrestling show with die-hard WWE fans being okay with it and a lot of casual fans turning it off. Because I think post-draft, and we now know the draft dates are the 1st and the 4th of October, post the 4th, this NXT could look very, very different. And we'll talk about that, I think, especially when we get to the main event. We now have a promo segment from Hit Row. Yes, JPJ, that was for you, because it's the rule. We have to sing Hit Row. We have Hit Row, and everybody takes turns making B-Fab sound fantastic. And B-Fab goes ahead and cuts a great promo backstage, and it was great. And then B-Fab comes to the ring. And I love Hit Row, and I love Legado del Fantasma. I have some gripes with all of this. And we're going to get to this real quick. B-Fab comes out. I'm not sure what she thinks she's wearing, but it's not ring gear. I don't know what it is. It looks like street clothes, which is fine, but I don't think she should be wrestling in Jordans, because that's what it looked like she was wearing. Adidas, Nikes, Jordans. She's wearing sneakers in the ring. Maybe they're low-bottomed wrestling boots. I don't know. But they're not traditional, and it made me very worried for her because she's very green in this match. She doesn't look bad, but she doesn't look great. She takes on Katrina Cortez, who I believe was Catalina back when she was paired with, I want to say, Lucha House Party at one point. I don't know. She was fine. It was supposed to be a squash match, and B-Fab won relatively quickly. Ash, did you get the same feeling I did, that she looked very green? Again, it was her in-ring debut, so maybe that's it. Maybe it's nerves. Hopefully she'll get better. She wasn't bad. She didn't injure anybody. She's not Nia Jax out there. But I wasn't as happy with this in this match than I thought I was going to be. What about you? Yeah,
I think my favorite part was she did the kicks on the side. I think that was my favorite part of how she looked. Yeah. But aside from that, she looks like she's brand new and she's just learning. So I'm glad she got the opportunity to show herself a little bit, and I hope she learns from that so she can improve and get better, because the way this is going, I know we're going to get a War Games match, and she needs to get better by that, because that War Games is going to be brutal too.
Yeah. And speaking of War Games and potentially having War Games, B-Fab starts cutting a promo. And normally B-Fab is absolutely fantastic on the mic. I love B-Fab and all of the members of Hit Row on the microphone. That being said, she was off her game tonight in that ring segment. It wasn't tight as it normally is. She didn't have the fire she normally had. Maybe it's because she just wrestled the match. Maybe it's because she was trying to go off the cuff a little bit. It didn't feel as tight as it normally does from her. She's normally really, really good on that mic, and she felt a little exposed tonight. We then get the Legado del Fantasma music, which I always love hearing because it's great music. And then Elektra Lopez comes out and cuts another okay-ish promo. I think we have Cody back. We're going to go ahead and bring him in and see what happens. Hello, Cody. Oh, we've got cell phone Cody.
We're going to run this while they're out of resets.
Okay, that's fine. We also have Aaron coming in and saying, War Games! Yes, although I did see on the internet tonight that from, I believe it was Andrew Zarian, that there is no War Games scheduled for November as of yet. So we'll wait and see whether or not we're getting War Games or not. So, yeah, going back over it, Elektra Lopez comes out and cuts a promo on BFAB. BFAB says, we'll go ahead and we'll just do this right now. And Elektra's like, no. We're not wrestling right now. We're going to wait on this. So I'm assuming we're going to get it at some point, and it's going to lead to the War Games match, hopefully. Yes, Aaron is sad, as we all are. If we don't get to hear William Regal say War Games, we will all be sad. Cody, what was your thoughts on the BFAB promo match and looking into BFAB versus Elektra Lopez soon?
The promo was excellent, as Hit Row always is. Mm-hmm. The match itself was solid, much the same as I felt about Braun Breaker. I felt like BFAB showed a lot of promise and a lot of good in there. I think she looked a little unpolished still, that there's room to grow and there's room to improve, but as a whole, the match itself got me excited to see where she can go. The Senorita Secret Sauce interruption and the LDF stuff. I mean, I definitely think there's a good chance that everyone's right, that we are heading to War Games there. It'll be interesting to see the men and the women mix it up in a War Games match, because that's not something WWE ever does. So if that's the way we're headed here, could be really, really exciting. And as we've seen later, there's another 4-person group now forming with 3 men and a woman.
Yeah, I have the same note during that segment. So yes, I agree. I think we might be headed there. We also might be headed back to that 3-way, 3 men, 3 shark cage War Games match that we had before.
Yeah.
We could very well be headed with the women just being on the outside, and we could be headed to LDF versus Hit Row versus, we'll talk about it later. We also have, this is where we have the index segment with Johnny Grimes and Odyssey. Austin returns, says he has a priest for the wedding, and it's Damian Priest, who just wants to get drunk on free booze, which is great. It was great seeing Damian Priest come back. He looks like a star. He's doing great things on Raw. He makes Astrid smile because of his representation of the Puerto Rican community. Cody, do you want me to go to the other stream, or do you want me to just leave it here?
I'm just going to give it a second here.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So then we had Carmelo Hayes come out, and he came out with random guy number 3 for the night, Trick Williams. Here's the first good name of the night from the random people that we've heard of.
Yep.
We got Trick Williams. I really like this. And okay, and Cody's bringing himself back, so there we go. I didn't know Cody had those privileges. Cool, I don't have to worry about bringing him in and out. So we have Hayes in the ring, and he's talking to Samantha, and he's being all humble and being excited to be the breakout champion, and he's going to pick his spot and make his mark. And he introduces us to his bodyguard, because now he's got a target on his back. So he's brought his friend Trick Williams here. And Trick Williams tells him to stop being humble and be himself. And I'm like, oh God, are they going to turn this guy on Carmelo in like 3 weeks already? Like, this is a bad idea. And then we get a really cool moment where Carmelo Hayes is like, yeah, no, you're right. I don't need to be humble. I'm fantastic. Why should I be humble? Why should I waste my energy trying to pretend I'm not as great as I am? And I'm like, oh, thank God, they're just going to turn him heel. Great. That's what they need to do when you have basically a championship match whenever you want. Then Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams leave the ring, and Duke Hudson comes out, apparently for getting ready for a match of his own. When he comes out and he stops and he tells Carmelo Hayes, you got lucky that you beat me in the tournament, looks at Trick Williams and laughs, and then pushes past both of them, and Carmelo Hayes tries to talk Trick Williams out of it, and he says no. The dude goes in there and beats the hell out of Duke Hudson. Like, these two guys really do a number on Duke Hudson in a really quick amount of time, too. Laying the boots to him, going ahead. Cody, what did you think of this new pairing with, again, another unknown person, but Carmelo Hayes turning heel, sort of, not with the fans, but at least in storyline terms, and going ahead and aligning himself with his buddy Trick. Oh, Cody, you are muted.
I think Trick Williams overshadowed him 100% in that promo period. I thought Trick was easily the better talker. He had the gift of gab, as he said, and then the gift of jab, maybe not so much. That 360 thrust kick could have used some work, but the beatdown afterwards, my notes, I had a fair number of notes that I took down here that it seemed almost to begin with like it was possibly going to be a heel face pair where they were going to draw it out with Trick trying to get Carmelo to see his point and move to the dark side, or Carmelo trying to teach Trick some humility, but they kind of sped it up and jumped right into it when Duke came out and made his comment, and the beatdown was strong. It made both of them look strong. It made Carmelo look like a threat now with Trick by his side. Made me believe that Carmelo is somebody who easily could come out and challenge the new champion and possibly be inserted in that match later tonight, or be an immediate challenger in the near future for the top title, as opposed to the last couple of weeks I've been saying I thought he'd be better suited chasing Swerve in the North American title, whereas now I believe him as a top contender for the top title.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Aaron in here saying turned heel and then jumped to heel, which was me a lukewarm idea. Also, Duke Hudson seemed to be batted around a lot for such a huge guy. I agree. I'm not sure how much love they have for Brendan Vink, Duke Hudson, going forward. But I like the idea that at least Trick Williams is a big guy, so you can get the idea that Duke Hudson can get beat up really easily by a big guy like Trick Williams.
Well, Wade Barrett has a ton of love for Duke Hudson, so
yes, Wade Barrett. Yes, but Wade Barrett isn't booking NXT, and I'm not. And after tonight's show, I'm not sure who is, but Wade Barrett might be a better choice. That being said, Astrid, what are your thoughts on this segment as a whole? Carmelo Hayes and the future of him and Trick Williams.
Yeah, just like you from the beginning, I was thinking it's going to be like a battle between both of these, and then Trick is going to turn on him soon. That was kind of like my idea at first, not what happened whatsoever. And when Duke passed by him, I was thinking, he's Trick is probably going to beat up Duke, but then Carmelo's not going to join him. That's what I was thinking at first. I was thinking it's just going to be like he's disappointed that his friend did that. But then seeing him, like Aaron was saying, like I was thinking, why are they beating up Duke when Duke is a heel as well? That's the part that I made me think about during this whole segment. But I'm like, it makes Carmelo look like a threat now, which I liked. I'm like, and then I love how even though he turned heel, the crowd still loved him so much. It didn't feel like a heel turn to me, which I loved as well.
It almost felt more like an anti-hero turn.
Yeah, and I agree. I think Carmelo Hayes isn't full heel. Like, he didn't do anything super heelish. Like, he can come back and say, look, I was going to be the bigger man. I told Trick not to do anything. I was going to walk away from this. Duke disrespected us by bumping us on his way by when he didn't have to. He could have just asked us to move and walk by, and we would have been fine. But he instigated us and things like that. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
He doesn't need to be a pure baby face, though. That's the big confusion in wrestling right now, is everybody thinks a face has to be a true baby face. And I think Carmelo is heading more for that anti-hero, the face that, he's still the good guy at the end of the day, but he's not going to take any crap. He's going to stand up for himself. If these heels are going to come down and talk smack like, oh, you got lucky, you didn't deserve to beat me, he's going to be like, oh yeah? Here, have some boots. Which is exactly what Stone Cold would have done back in the day.
Yeah. And the one person I would he's kind of like an old school Shawn Michaels in the terms of he's the cocky guy who knows how good he is, having seen him on the indies. If Carmelo Hayes is going to be anything like the Casanova character, he knows how good he is, and he thinks that his stuff don't stink. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, he's going to be that cocky son of a bitch who can kind of walk the line of not being a heel, but he's certainly not a pure blood baby face. The fans will still cheer for him, even though he's doing some heelish things. And I think that's where we're headed with him.
I think WWE needs to create more of those characters anyhow. The guys who can work both heel and face without having to turn back and forth and big show their way through. That you can stay as your one character the entire time. You work a little bit more heel style against the true baby faces, but you can also work a little bit more face against the heels.
Yeah. By the way, through all of this, none of us, I'm going to assume, none of us think this is a bad segment or a bad thing. This is putting him right up there in the potential to be in a main event picture coming out of all of this very easily. Like this segment feels like it took him from guaranteed North American picture to right up to being potential for the new NXT champion.
Yeah.
In my mind, I could see him. I could see him facing off against the new champion and having a killer match.
This is babyface Shawn Michaels introducing Diesel at his side.
Absolutely. Except this Diesel can talk. This Diesel can talk better than Shawn Michaels can, which is very, very interesting for this pairing. And I'm excited to see how good the jab is, because like you said, the jab wasn't great tonight, but I think maybe in the ring he might be okay. But we'll get to that because we don't know. We then get Casey and Casey versus what I call the Rosebuds. They're Mandy Rose's friends. We have JC Jane and Gigi Dolan. This was a fun little match that started, and then all of a sudden somebody came running out and interrupted. We find out it's Mandy Rose, and the big, huge Mandy Rose difference is she's now a brunette instead of a blonde.
Mandy 2.0.
Yes, Mandy 2.0. Oh, God. All right, I'm going to go out and say it. She doesn't feel, look, or act like Mandy Rose anymore. And all she did is change her hair.
And her
I
outfit.
don't get... Yeah, but, like, she feels like an entirely different character. And all she did is change the way her clothes and her hair. I don't want to feel like I'm that vapid. But my God, I can't believe that they changed her entire character with a wardrobe and a hair color.
Sorry, I just want to say, like, where was this Mandy Rose in the main roster? Because that's something I would have loved to see in the main roster with her.
I mean, really, I loved the idea of her with Sonya. And the two of them worked well with, you have the girl who's going to kick your ass and the girl who every man wants. Like, that gimmick worked on the main roster. I know it's overdone, but for those two, it really worked. But her in-ring stuff really works a lot better now because she's really getting better. And I was going to say, and Aaron picks up on what I was just starting to talk about, her in-ring worked a lot more smooth for my money. Sometimes less is more, and this worked beautifully. I wholeheartedly agree because after we get the run-in interference, we go to commercial break, and of course we get, as Cody said, the Teddy Long special. We get a tag team match, playa! There was a 6-woman tag, or as Cody said, the wrong gender identified 6-man tag.
Only because that's what Teddy always would have went with.
Yes, I agree. And then somebody would have gone one-on-one with The Undertaker.
Yeah.
But this match was actually given a decent amount of time, and Cody made a very good point. On this show, we were supposed to get Raquel Gonzalez versus Frankie Monet. We didn't get that match. That match was scrapped earlier in the day, and we had heard about it from a couple different sources. Fightful had reported it, and I had seen it via Wrestle Talk, via Fightful. And I had said, we'll wait and see what happens once we see what actually goes on in the show. I'm going to guess that they decided there was already a lot on this show, and they wanted something to kind of be the headline of next week's show. So they went ahead and moved the women's title match. Before the match when the match got restarted, Cody, and I believe I'm timing this right, you had said, I really wished we would have had the women's championship match here. That being said,
in that point, given how much time this match was given, I would hazard a guess that this is probably the time they had allotted to the Raquel Frankie match, and they gave it to this match instead to save that title match for next week or another show.
I agree. And I wasn't even going to say that it's a bad thing, because I actually agree with your point. I think that before the match, I wholeheartedly agreed that I would have liked to have seen the title match in place of the 6-woman tag. Then after having seen the 6-woman tag, it was actually really good, and I'm glad it was on the show because it felt like a continuity thing. It just kept moving the story along, and we can always put the Frankie versus Raquel match on next week. You don't necessarily need that this week, and honestly, with the timing issues that they had the rest of the show, I would have been worried if they would have tried to put it on this show, because if you get it, like Cody says, yeah, you could have done the 10-ish minutes that you had for this 6-woman tag portion in there. But at least we got a good match in here. It was still a women's match. So we're still getting women's wrestling. So they're listening to us fans, because on Friday night, a lot of fans were unhappy with the SmackDown show for the reason that the Zelina Vega tag team match got cut. And fans should be rightfully upset that Zelina Vega's match on that show on that day got cut. I'm not overly upset that there was no women's wrestling on that show, more as I am that I was that a particular match for that particular star was cut, because that was a special moment for her. That being said, WWE's obviously seen the error of their ways. There were 4 women's matches on Raw last night, and there were 3 matches, if you really want to get technical, women's matches on this show. So WWE's definitely listening. I guarantee you we're going to have a match on SmackDown for a women's match this week on SmackDown. At least one, if
We
not
hope.
2.
We hope.
If
After
they,
I'll pray for it.
if
Praying right
they,
now. Hold on.
Oh my God. If they are dumb enough to have done so good these last 2 nights about making sure that they have women's matches that not only make sense, but are quality wrestling matches on their show, and then forget about it on Friday, oh, that's going to be bad.
This match, though, before we move on, Ed, this
Yeah.
match was a showcase for all 6 women, I thought.
Absolutely.
I thought all 6 of them had their moments. They all looked great coming out of this. And number one, I felt like Kaden Carter looked like an absolute star in this match. If anything, this was a star-making performance for her, and I want to see her moving on to bigger, better things as a singles wrestler, whether that means breaking apart from Casey or just having Casey as a teammate supporting her in her corner.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree. That's why I was, when we were talking about whether or not this match or the title match should have been there. This match was so good. I'm glad it was here, because I don't think we would have gotten the same quality of match, feeling wise, like watching the whole story play out, if we'd had to wait a week to get to it. But no, this match was this is the best match of the night. I will wholeheartedly admit it. It's better than the NXT Championship match.
And to be honest, I really like how in commentary they kept pointing out, they said Gigi and Jason have like benefited from Mandy just as Mandy has benefited from them. And they said that a couple of times during commentary, which I really loved, because it tied into the whole story of what they were saying in the ring as well.
Yeah. And Saray, you would think she's an odd peg in this storyline. And while she doesn't quite fit with her teammates in terms of look, like the other 3 have a really good cohesive look because they're a group. Saray really fits in with this, with the storyline, which I love. They're making storyline sense of everything. She's the one who attacks Mandy Rose, so you have a tag team thing going on here, and you got a singles thing going on here, and everything works together.
Yeah, she was the one that broke Mandy's face, and then Gigi and JC were the ones that came and attacked her in the locker room and beat her down backstage. So she's the most sensible one to come out for that run-in save. Even though she doesn't have the history with the KC squared, she still has that history with the Rosebuds, as you call them.
Yes,
she turned
I'm
Mandy
sorry.
brunette.
I love the demented brunette. As Asher says, there we go. She'll name Mandy Rose. I'll name the rest. The demented brunette and the Rosebuds. I mean, it worked. This whole segment worked. It was well worth the time. And about this point, I think Asher put in there, oh my God, I just realized this is only like the first hour of NXT. This show was jam-packed full of all kinds of stuff. We then get to Ridge Holland versus Drake Maverick.
Whose entrance looked fantastic.
Yes. I mean, I do love Ridge Holland's entrance in this new NXT.
Yeah.
But before the match, I'm sorry, did I miss this? I didn't. I don't know where I missed this. At some point here, Kyle O'Reilly gets attacked in one of these things.
It's a picture-in-picture with the
Is it during? Okay, it is during this match.
It was the picture-in-picture during the tag before the interruption in the 6-woman.
Okay, there we go. Oh, I do have it in there, and I just missed it on my notes. Yeah, so Kyle O'Reilly gets attacked by Ridge Holland and Peter Dunne, or Pete Dunne. And so NXT 3A. Parrish is our lovely friend who's always supporting us, and we love it. But Kyle O'Reilly gets taken out of the match, and that's a shame, because he was money's on favorite for a lot of people in this match going forward. That being said, I didn't hate it. Normally, bait and switches feel real bad. I didn't hate it because it gave us a lot of opportunity for, something cool could happen. Oh, Carmelo Hayes is going to get inserted in the match. Wait for it. after Ridge Holland makes his entrance, before Drake Maverick comes out, we have William Regal backstage where he says that the man who broke up the fight is going to get Kyle O'Reilly's spot. And he says his name is Von Wagner, to which the entirety of the Love Wrestling community who was watching the show live legitimately said, who the F is this guy? None of us knew. We did finally look it up. It is Matt Bloom's son, Cale Bloom. So it is Lord Tensai's younger son, which is going to be great.
He's the new Prince Albert.
He is the new Prince Albert. He actually, and when we get to the match, we'll talk about it more. I thought he didn't look as green as I thought he'd look in that match. He looked really good, but we'll get to that. But I don't like the idea that they just put a random dude in this big time, match for the world championship.
Is this like a named person number 5 at this point?
This is, hold on.
You were keeping track.
4. We don't count random dude who stood up to Braun Breaker because they never really give us a name for him, so he doesn't count. So this is named person number 4 that we had no clue who they were.
Did we count B-Fab's unnamed opponent in there?
No, because she was just a squash match, and we let that. I let that one go, and it's just a squash match. I honestly, we talked about B-Fab. I thought this might have been Catalina, who was in that Lucha House Party story with Andrade and crew at one point.
We also missed the Raquel hype video. Was in there before the Regal interview too.
Okay, yeah,
I missed that part.
Raquel got a hype video in there with no mention of the Frankie match at all.
Well, that's just fantastic. This show was littered with really good stuff and what the hell are you doing stuff. So yeah, Drake Maverick gets absolutely destroyed. Great, cool. Ridge Holland looks like a badass. There's not a whole lot to say about this.
Completely no sells a hard slap to the face.
Yeah, I mean when Drake Maverick slaps you, it's we need to get that slap fight from the NWA. Ridge Holland versus
continuity.
Drake Maverick gave you your slap fight. It lasted one slap.
It did. So this is where my notes start to really take a hit. We got 2 Brits wrestling from What's Not to Like. I agree. I have no problem with Ridge Holland versus Drake Maverick. But on this show, we've been talking about it for a couple weeks now, that we just want Drake to have something where when we see Drake Maverick come out, we don't immediately go, oh, look, he's getting squashed. Because that's all I ask. That's all I ask, is that Drake Maverick has good things happen to him.
You know what? We're 3 weeks in a row now. Drake has been on my NXT TV. Plus, he showed up in the 24/7 picture the last couple weeks. Give me Drake. I don't care what impact he has. Put him back on Impact for all I care. Give me Drake Maverick somewhere.
So this is where my notes all of a sudden take a nosedive, because at this point I've been like, oh God, I don't know if I like this show. So all of a sudden I
can go. I got my notes here, Ed, if you want me to go.
Okay. I'm going to try to piece together a bunch of the show here from here on out, and we'll see what I miss, and you guys can remind me when I miss stuff. I think here's where we got the Tony Tony Random Soprano, or
not quite. We had Ciampa's interview where he's talking about him and Goldie as the greatest love story, and 908 days they've been apart.
Okay, I did have Ciampa cuts a promo.
And then we had the Diamond Mine entrance right before Tony D'Angelo's promo.
With a mystery woman.
Italian mafioso / amateur Greco-Roman wrestler from University of Buffalo.
Yeah. Oh my God. There's so much wrong with this character, right? Like,
how long are we going to keep it with that last name, though? Let's be serious. How long is it going to last?
I love it. I love it.
He's gonna be Tony Soprano in 4 weeks. You know he will be. He's gonna be Tony Soprano in 4 weeks.
The best part is I think at some point around here we got a commercial for the new Sopranos TV show coming out.
Oh my God.
Like, great timing. Go.
Yeah. So speaking of the Diamond Mine, we get the Creed brothers, and the Diamond Mine has an additional person. And all of us again in the Slack chat goes, who the hell is that? Oh, Aaron, I love this. We're going to get back to what I was just talking about in a minute. I don't know why, but Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, Zach is still here saying, I saw pictures. That was Richard Kind. Don't tell me it wasn't Richard Kind. About anything being
I definitely saw your tweet about that too, Zach. That I had a good chuckle during the show.
All right, so we go ahead and we continue moving on, and we get the Diamond Mine coming out, and they've added a female, which is great. Now, granted, they tell us nothing about her for her entire entrance, as she's channeling her inner Vince McMahon from Muscle and Fitness, wearing this big, huge, massive metal chain. I mean, I'm sorry I'm excitable and loud, and I apologize in advance for the audio and how this is going to sound. I apologize. We'll go through the match. It's a long squash match. It's a way too long of a squash match. The Creed brothers are very green. I don't really like them. I think they have very little personality. I like that they slap each other like the Bludgeon Brothers. That's a nice little callback. But other than that, they're very vanilla generic in the ring. Their ring attire is black Greco-Roman like wrestling tights. There's not a lot to them. Does anybody else have any thoughts on the Diamond Mine match?
I enjoy them, and
Yeah.
I think I enjoy kind of the intensity and the physicality that they have with each other as well as their opponents. I think these squash matches are being used for what squash matches are supposed to be used for, to get them in a rhythm with their moves, get them routine, get their timing down, get their personalities out there. I think this is a lot more what we can expect from the new NXT going forward, is a lot more of these green prospects coming out and watching them grow from kind of raw talent to actually developing into a star to move forward. I hate the idea of going back to a point where we're developing and then they show up on Raw and carrying cross their way to nothingness. But at the same time, I think this is what development always was intended to be, was, watch these guys grow into the stars before they go on to the main shows to be stars.
And by the way, when we talk about developmental and we say it, people think, oh, developmental, this is going to be bad programming and bad matches. The original NXT, not the original NXT where it was the game show version with the Austin and that kind of stuff. But the original NXT as a branded wrestling promotion.
There was Seth Rollins, Big E, Bo Dallas NXT.
Exactly.
Yeah, the FCW and then NXT.
Yeah. But the one thing that you had throughout that thing is you had guys coming up in the business like Tyler Breeze. But you had mainstays like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and stuff like that. But you had these guys that were always on the back burner. One of those names is now a big star, and he's really getting over in WWE. And it's Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin, one of those developmental talents who WWE hit a home run with. Did they force him down our throats a little too much at points? Yes. But Baron Corbin knows who he is. He knows what he can do. And in the ring, he's super solid, and he's had a relatively decent push his entire main roster career. People talk about how WWE always misses with these NXT people, and most of the time they do. I won't defend them on that. That being said, they have a chance to introduce us to a lot of people. I keep saying unnamed person number 3, 4, whatever it might be. And we're on 5 now, by the way. We can go ahead, in honor of Big E, we can give him 5. But we have this match, and it's fine. And like you said, a squash match is exactly supposed to be. It's not even a squash match, it's a showcase. This is absolutely a showcase for the Creed brothers. I hope they get some kind of personality soon, because they seem very generic and just making sure that they hit their marks with their wrestling moves. So I'm excited to see what they do from here. That being said,
need to see them get some opportunity to speak for themselves. I think now with Malcolm doing the speaking for them, it's really kind of guiding who they're going to be. And I want to see them get to a point where they get to do that talking too. But I think it's good having Malcolm there to speak for them while they develop the in-ring, and then let them talk once their in-ring is up there.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're going to have somebody in NXT talk for you, there's nobody better than Malcolm Bivens. If you don't know who this guy is, check his stuff out on the indies. The man can talk so well. And if you like him Look up his stuff with Mia Yim because he drives this woman absolutely batty. It is fantastic. That being said, at this point, Cody goes, we've got 35 minutes. How are we going to fit a wedding, a squash? Before this match, we had about 30 minutes left in the show. And Cody in our Slack chat goes, how are you going to fit a wedding, a fatal 4-way, and a squash match in? The squash match took up about 5 minutes, and I'm like, ooh, this is going to be bad. Malcolm Bivens then cut like a 4-minute promo. And I'm like, what are you doing? But he goes ahead and he finally gives us an introduction to, and again, the only other good name on the show. So to count them now, we've had 3 really bad names on the show. Because we had Tony Mama Luke or whatever, Tony D'Angelo. We had Braun Breaker.
The 2Ks.
Yes, with 2Ks. Don't forget the 2Ks. Because the wrestling game is being put out by 2K. Maybe that's why he has to have 2Ks in his name. And then we have, on top of that, we had Brooks Jensen.
Yeah.
So now we get the 5th and final name, and it's Ivy Nile. I like her. That's a cool name. She looks like a badass. She's got like all of this hair cut off, and she's got diamonds put into her hair like Bailey. I love the idea that she's kind of copying that Bailey hair thing, where she shaved off a bunch of her hair and she has diamonds put in there.
She gave me a little bit of a Layla Hirsch vibe too.
Yeah. I agree. And I did a little bit of research because I was curious as to who she was, because I'd never heard of her before. So I searched her up on Twitter, and I found her Twitter, and I found this. She retweeted a story about herself from the CrossFit Games. Her name is, for anybody who wants to look her up and see what she's done before, she is Sarah Sigmund's daughter, is her real name apparently. I'm assuming that that's her. It looks like her in the video that they played that I watched quickly while I was watching NXT and doing it. She looks legit, like you said, like a lot like a version of legit Layla Hirsch. She's kind of tiny. She's kind of badass. I'm excited to see what she can bring. Because if this girl can wrestle, I mean, she's going to be interesting in this women's division.
I don't know if either of you watched The Rock's Titan games over the last couple of years when it's been on.
I did not.
But apparently she was on it. I don't recall seeing her on it, but I was always just so impressed with the talent of the women and the men that The Rock brought into that show, and the strength and the power and the endurance that those competitors had, that if she brings half of that with any kind of legit skill to the wrestling ring, I think she'll be fantastic. And it doesn't hurt that Malcolm says she hasn't had a carb since 2005.
No, I did love that. And Roddy, like, I loved how Roddy's like, yeah, that's true. Like, he's known her since 2005 and would do it. I guarantee you Roddy met her like a week and a half ago backstage when somebody went up to him and goes, by the way, this is your new stablemate. That being said, like I said, she looks great. And the segment ends with the best lines from Kushida. Kushida makes his return. I'm so happy he's back. I'm so happy he's passed the COVID. We now find out the reason why he was gone. He announced it on Twitter. Yes, we're getting to that line. But I'm glad he's doing better. He no longer has COVID, and he's back in NXT. The match is set for next week. But as Cody demonstrated, he goes, talk. All you do is talk. I just lost my ever-loving shit on the couch. I absolutely lost it. I thought it was the greatest thing ever as he just went off with the word talk. But yes, we're getting Kushida versus Roderick Strong next week, and it's going to be fantastic. Yeah. We then get the Fatal 4-Way. My entire notes for the Fatal 4-Way are Ciampa wins after a good but not great 4-Way. But yes, Tommaso Ciampa does win this Fatal 4-Way. It's an interesting one. The first half of this match felt like, and I saw it on Twitter, I believe it was Waffle Box Pod's friend of Between Two Beards guys, that says it feels like this match was told you're getting 25 minutes and then was told, oh no, you've got 10. Now granted, they got more than 10 minutes in there, but it feels like this match was a very condensed version because the beginning of this match feels like it's going 100 miles an hour.
See, my notes say the exact opposite, Ed.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. My notes say I didn't take enough notes for this match because I was too busy enjoying it.
I didn't, and again, I don't think it was a bad match, but like my level for Fatal 4-Ways for the NXT Championship go back to the Fatal 4-Way we had when Finn Balor came back. When we had Finn Balor versus Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole versus Tommaso Ciampa that ended up having to go to a second week because NXT decided that they weren't going to give us the finish. But that being said, like, that's the level of Fatal 4-Way I thought we were going to get. I know I should have knocked my expectations down when we got Von Wagner in this match, which I still can't believe is a name in NXT. I still can't believe that's a name in NXT. I don't hate it. I actually kind of like it. By the way, unknown number 6, Von Wagner.
It's from the name generator they got in NXT.
Yeah.
Dude, I would love to see the random name generator that they have for this stuff. Because some of these names are great and some of them are just awful. But Cody, you really like this match. Let's go ahead and we'll start with you and then we'll move to Astrid about things that we really loved.
I did. I thought it had a lot of good moments to it. I thought it had the back forth. I think the knock that you have on it, Ed, is a fair knock. I think it didn't live up to what you would expect of a Fatal 4-Way for the title. I think it lived up to what I was expecting of a Fatal 4-Way for the number one contender that just happened to get the title attached to it. So I think that's kind of the difference there. You had the higher expectations and were let down. I kind of tempered my expectations and enjoyed it. But yeah, the action went all over the place. I thought Vaughn looked really good and didn't look out of place in the match. I thought Pete and Tommaso definitely held their own LA Knight, considering it was his second match of the night. And he had a hard-hitting match earlier with Braun Breaker, too, that, you know, he got to work with a couple of those newer talents. Thought he still looked like he could go and could give it a lot more later in the night. Some of the spots, I mean, LA Knight getting busted open, I had to go back and rewind to look at that. Looks like when Tommaso went over the top, he caught him with an elbow. Yeah. Got that crimson mask that you can't say the B word on TV. That's a no-go, right? But no, I think Tommaso was the right choice here, too. I think if this was a number one contender, I think the story was built there for Joe and Dunn, and I definitely would have expected Dunn to win. I think Ridge not being out there with Dunn kind of telegraphed that they were going a different route with it, and I think Tommaso is the right guy to be holding the title going forward to tell the same story they wanted to tell with Joe, but with another aging veteran.
Absolutely. Astrid, we haven't heard from you in a while because I've been talking too much. So.
No. To me, it felt like even though it's a Fatal 4-Way, I felt like it was more like Vaughn versus LA Knight and then Ciampa versus Dunn. That's how it felt to me with most of the spots of the match. It felt like, here, let's do this. And then these two are out of the ring. And then these two are coming up now. And I felt like all four of them didn't like touch each other too much, which I thought was strange to me at first. I did like the part of Ciampa and Dunn kind of teaming up in that part and commentary like, oh, we have like a holy like teaming here for a sudden. But it just felt like, I don't know, it felt like Vaughn was going against Knight a lot, and then it was Ciampa and Dunn like that. But I did like the ending. I did like how Ciampa won. I was not expecting Ciampa to win. I was like, let's see what happens. I was just kind of like an open mind with this match. I'm like, anything can happen. They can go any route at this point because everything happening with Joe. So I was like not expecting anybody in particular to win, but I'm really glad it was Ciampa.
Yeah, and like I said, I really enjoyed the match. It kind of, I got myself overexcited for what a Fatal 4-Way for the title was supposed to be. You know, not having Kyle O'Reilly in this match definitely hurts it because it can only hurt it. Like when you replace Kyle O'Reilly with anybody else in the world, there's only a few guys who make a match better than having Kyle O'Reilly in the match. So obviously it's going to take a step down. I agree. Vaughn looked fantastic in this match. He didn't make any big mistakes. He was in the right spots for the right stuff. He didn't throw off anybody's timing with anything. He's got a lot of talent, and I think he could be a big star in this thing. He's been trained by his dad, who's... Let's be honest. We all make fun of Prince Albert, but that being said, if you've seen any of his stuff in Japan, the dude was over and the dude was fantastic. He never got a real good run in WWE, you know, to showcase who he is and what he does. I mean, yeah, he had the match at WrestleMania with the Big Show and him versus The Undertaker, and that was a great program. I believe it was him and Big Show versus Taker. I could be wrong.
I don't recall an Albert singles run. I just recall Albert for his time in the tag scene and how accomplished of a tag wrestler he was between TNA with Test and his Albert and Draws pairing back in the day as well, prior to Draws' unfortunate accident. But I definitely had appreciation for Albert back in the day, all the way back to the Shave Your Back days. That he's one of the head trainers down in NXT right now, I think. So that's just an immediate notch in the belt of his son coming up, that your dad is one of the top trainers in the company.
Yeah. And by the way, like the fact that we're talking about all this young talent, like Trick Williams looks like he could be great. We got Carmelo Hayes, who's going to be great. We got Braun Breaker, who, name aside, because the name is dog shit. We'll be honest. It's dog. But that being said, his in-ring stuff was really good and entertaining. He's got a lot to offer. And at the end of the show, after the wedding and everything else, Tommaso Ciampa's smiling watching the wedding, and it pulls out and he's got the title. And Braun Breaker comes up to him and he's like, good job. Congratulations on winning the title. And Ciampa looks at him and goes, yeah, congratulations on getting your first win in NXT. And they shake hands and stare at each other. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a potential title feud. I don't know if I want it. Like, I spent all week harping on everybody who's saying Dunn's the obvious choice to win this. And I was like, but you know what you could do? You could go ahead and you could have just given, the title to Carmelo Hayes, and you go ahead and you just... Zach, we'll get to your comment in a minute. I want to finish my thought before I get it. But I saw it and I love it, and I just want to give it its time in a moment. I want to promote new young stars, and it's definitely... No, nothing to be sorry for, Zach. You're fine. I love it. It's a great comment. I want to promote young stars, and I love the idea. But that being said, I don't think I was ready for Braun Breaker to be the young star. I think I had my heart set on a different one. That being said, I can't wait for next week. But more importantly than next week, I can't wait for the episode of NXT that isn't taped after the 6th or the 5th. Because like I said, we have the draft coming up on the 1st. We have the draft coming up on the 4th. Speaking of the draft, the Saturday Reacts crew has put a little something together, and Cody's hearing about this for the first time. We have our moderator, Alex, EctoGuy87, who's going to moderate the draft, the WWE mock draft of 2021 between WWE's Raw, general managed by Chris Parrish, SmackDown, managed by myself, and NXT 2.0, managed by our own Ashton Pizarro. And we're going to draft the entire WWE roster onto three shows for the September 25th Saturday React show. So everybody stay tuned to that. We put that together ourselves over the last couple of days when I finally heard what days the drafts were coming. And I wanted to beat the guys who do all the other draft stuff on this show. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Bearded Brothers. I wanted to get a draft on the show.
Our turn.
It's our turn to draft something. That being said, we welcome anybody else in the chat to go ahead and, hang out with us as we go ahead and draft and to rate our drafts, things like that. Another thing I wanted to bring up before the show ends, two unfortunate things. We lost Norm Macdonald today. Norm Macdonald was a great comedy legend. He had cancer for a lot of years and hid it behind the scenes. Cancer sucks. Norm, rest in peace. You were a vital part of my growing up with Saturday Night Live, with a bunch of different funny movies. The guy was a comic genius. That being said, speaking of unfortunate passings and whatnot, this Saturday we are presenting The Rest Hold. The Rest Hold is a show being led by the Wordsmith. It'll be including Bobby Munson, EctoGuy87 Alex, and myself. And anybody else who wants to be a part of the show, go ahead and reach out to the Wordsmith. It'll be happening at 7 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central Time on Saturday afternoon this week, as we go ahead and we take a look at mental health and the different things that happen, especially, kind of around wrestling and things like that. Because with the unfortunate, passing of Daphne, it's a time to, coming out of a pandemic where all of us have been isolated, to know that it's okay to talk to people and that we're all going through a lot of stuff as the world reopens and we all re-enter the world and get back to being with people and not being by ourselves, to know that we're not alone, even if we are locked down, and even if we are, not in the same place. So that show, like I said, will be airing on Saturday at 7 p.m. Go ahead and jump in the chat. And for the Love Wrestling team, you guys obviously know how to get a hold of us to do that. Thoughts on NXT as a whole, with the wedding, with the Samoa Joe news, with the rebrand, with 6 unnamed talents, and everything else going on. Astrid, your thoughts as a whole for NXT?
I felt like a lot happened tonight that I was not expecting. The timing fell off on the show. It felt weird to me. Like I told you, like we said in the chat, I hadn't noticed it had been like a little bit over an hour when the women's match was happening. So I thought that was incredible thing that so many things had happened that whole hour alone. I'm keeping up open mind because we don't know what's going to happen next week. Obviously, this is just like here an introduction to what's new. But we have so many new talents. We can't wait to see what happens with them now and how they improve next week. Hoping that a Cruiserweight Championship match is good, and hopefully we get Raquel and Frankie as well. So I'm really excited for next week to see what happens.
And Cody, your thoughts?
Yeah, it felt new. It felt fresh. It felt, like Astrid said, the timing, it felt off, but in a good way, like in the best possible way, that the show didn't drag. But it felt like there was so much in there, and the time just, felt like you'd been watching for 2 hours and it was only 45 minutes. It's like, wait, there's still so much more left to come. And it was a real changing of the guard episode, though. It felt like they introduced a lot of new talents. Almost like a breakout tournament without needing to be a breakout tournament, that there was so many new names, new faces, Breaker getting that surprise win to start the show. You've got a new team of JBBJ, assuming that they're going to continue on beyond their loss to Imperium and hopefully turn things around and become something more. Maybe not. Maybe Briggs goes his own route. But, I mean, you've got the BFAB debut. You've got the Von Wagner debut. You've got so many things to look forward to coming up in the coming weeks. And it's a much brighter future for NXT, pun intended on that. But I think it's going to be a really good time going forward. I think we're going to have fun on here watching the show and recapping it every week.
Yeah, I was going to say there was so much of this show that I was unexpected and didn't love. But that being said, it didn't feel like I lost all of NXT. It felt like I went in a time machine. I really feel like I'm watching the early days of NXT on the network. I really feel like I'm in that pre-takeover era where you could see anybody and everybody popping up, that matches could just happen, and you could have stars that you've never seen before that you have to learn about. We haven't had that feeling in a long time, and I'm excited for it. Is it going to be the top tier brand that NXT has come to know and love? No. I think those days might be by it. Again, Cody, he gives that look, and I agree. I'm not saying it can't. I'm saying, do I expect to have the shows with the golden era of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe and Finn Balor and all of those, Ciampa and Gargano and everything else? I think those days may be past us for now, for a little while. That being said, there's a lot to look forward to. We got a lot of young stars that can grow into fantastic talents. The comment from Zach that I forgot to put back up again is Braun Breaker implies the existence of Braun Fixer, to which Zach apologized when I said I would get to it in a moment. And then we have our friend Aaron, who's subbing in for the first time. All show has been here. There's been a star giving us comments. Breaker staring down Ciampa was a beautiful nod to the old guard and the new era collab. And I wholeheartedly agree. And that's where I wanted to end this segment on the NXT show with. It's a great way with Ciampa to bring that old guard and that new guard together. There's a lot of promise. There's a lot of young talent. And especially here, we have 3 people who this is our first time with just the 3 of us working together. And it was a bunch of fun. I mean, Cody's internet was definitely the heel of the group, I will say. But he got it working, and he beat the internet, and it's good. And I'm glad.
It realized I was going to jump onto the mobile network instead of the Wi-Fi, so it finally smartened up.
I really didn't expect all of a sudden. For those of you who don't know about StreamYard, there's these great pictures that show all of us in our little blocks. All of a sudden, when Cody logs on with with his phone, it's just like a big picture of Cody's head cut off like here. And I'm like, oh god, I didn't get to see that. That being said, I want to thank our sponsors, RK Athletics. I know Zach did it earlier. I'm going to do it again. RK Athletics 1. Any of your needs, virtual or in Edmonton, Alberta, go ahead and check out Rich King. He is absolutely fantastic. He's a professional wrestler in the area, I believe, too. Cody can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But he seems like a really cool dude. And go ahead and follow them on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. RKathletics1.com. A couple other things for Love Wrestling. You can find all of our products at lovewrestling.ca/shop. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/lovewrestling. Where added content other than our live streams, you can get Josh's Legacies of. You can go ahead and get Poetry of a Promo, which this week was the 1, 2, 3 Kid. So if you haven't listened, go ahead and listen to the Wordsmith. Talk fluently about the 1, 2, 3 Kid. We also, as obviously, if you're here on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, you can find us on twitch.tv/lovewrestlingca. Give us a follow. Let us get more followers because we got a big thing coming up where we're going to change the game with Force Pro Wrestling as we go ahead and broadcast that live here on Twitch. So be excited for that.
Twitch exclusive. So make sure you've got your Twitch account and following us for when that comes up into October here.
Yes. With that being said, Astrid, I'm going to go ahead and give you the big screen so we can talk about where we can find you for the rest of the week.
I hate that big screen. I'm kidding. You can find me on Twitter at Astrid Pizarro. When I'm not here, I'm usually live tweeting. I was live tweeting a little bit today. I was breaking my rule, but if not, I'm here on Tuesdays on the NXT show. I'm going to be on the Saturday show reacting to everything that's happened during the week and who knows what else. And maybe sometime Aaron will have me back on WrestlePlug and we can figure it out so I can be there again.
Yes, as Aaron says, his fantastic show. He's been editing wrestling shows and training. We appreciate you, Aaron. We're going to switch to Cody as long as I don't remove him. There we go.
Wouldn't be first time.
I accidentally almost hit remove, I'll be honest.
Yeah, you can find me here every Tuesday night following NXT, reviewing all of the goodness on our new Color Splash Rainbow show, spilling the tea, as it were. You can also find me exclusively this Friday night here on all of our Love Wrestling platforms, breaking the news. Everything will be going up shortly. Myself, the franchise Matt, and a new contributor here on Love Wrestling will be breaking down the NJPW G1 Climax Friday night, just in time for the climax to start. Going through our predictions, our picks, the matches that we're looking forward to. So definitely appreciate it if you guys tune into that, and possibly over the weekend as well for some other content here.
Absolutely. And again, you can find me at edfries125 on Twitter. You can find me here on Love Wrestling with NXT as we go ahead and do that. You can also find me on the Saturday React show. Also, make sure that you check out Turnbuckle Talk. Make sure that you check out all of the other fantastic Love Wrestling content that we have going on whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on Twitch, all the fun stuff going on. Like I said, mental health is important. We have that show coming up on Saturday. We would love it if people could stop by for that. That would be fantastic. So for Love Wrestling team, thank you for being with us for our first episode of NXT. The graphics will be a little bit different as we get going, as we try to get ourselves going in a new direction. We weren't sure about the name until literally last week because we were contemplating a bunch of names. But we really enjoyed NXT. I love the new graphics. I love the team that we've got here going forward. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to talk to you guys every Tuesday and talk about NXT after we learn about NWA Power. With that being said, everybody, enjoy wrestling, enjoy Love Wrestling, and we will see you next time.